A great dragon once said,
What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
and there's no other character that embodies this idea better than Sweet Pea. In the episode Escape from the Citadel, Finn and Jake are transporting the Lich, aka the most evil being in the universe, to his prison. And unbeknownst to them, the Lich does his evil Lich shenanigans and frees himself and all the prisoners in the Citadel with him. And while Finn over here is being emotionally damaged by his father, the Lich seizes this opportunity and attacks both of them and puts them under his genjutsu.
Fall.
But either by pure luck or destiny. Right before the Lich is about to finish Finn, he gets touched by the Guardian's blood. And just a reminder for what the Guardian's blood is. It's that good nooch.
It's got that good nooch that keeps us young in the crystal.
And with this concoction of evil undead warlord with good nooch, Sweet Pea was born. At the end of Escape from the Citadel, Finn and Jake take Sweet Pea to arguably the best parents in the entire show. Because frankly, there's not enough of that. Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig. And honestly, how they raised and treated Sweet Pea would be a major factor in how the show unfolds later. The next major appearance for Sweet Pea we see after the ending of Escape from the Citadel is Gold Stars. And this episode really shows the conflicting natures that is brewing inside of Sweet Pea. The episode opens up with Sweet Pea having a vivid nightmare about the Lich, showing that although he is sweet, he still has a great evil within him. But thankfully, Sweet Pea is quickly comforted by his parents, who reassures him that he's safe and that it's simply just a dream.
Just a dream.
Sweet Pea is going to his first day of school, and to say practically everyone is unsure of his inborn nature is an understatement. You know it's that deep when they use more than just the banana guards. Once Sweet Pea arrives at school, he starts to get bullied by these candy kids, but not long after, he has an unfortunate encounter with the one and only, the King of Ooh. And just a reminder of who the King of Ooh is, he's a slime ball.
We're not going to take care of you. We're going to burn down your orchard.
Shortly after introducing each other, the King of Ooh convinces Sweet Pea to go under his wing, but in reality, it's really just a ploy to exploit Sweet Pea so he can easily scam the candy citizens. And this works out for them. For each person the King of Ooh scams, he gives Sweet Pea a golden star. This is until he needs one more golden star, is when the story starts to turn. Sweet Pea goes to the King of Ooh's house, and he finds out the truth that the King of Ooh was using him to scam the candy citizens the entire time. And in shock about finding out this new information, he gets caught by the King of Ooh in Toronto. In response to that, they claim that they would take care of him, and Sweet Pea makes a smart decision and tries to run back home. At this point, Sweet Pea made it home, but he's locked outside of his house, and the King of Ooh catches up to him and offers him a deal. Leave everything behind and work with him forever, or else...
We're going to burn down your orchard.
And with nowhere else to run, Sweet Pea is pushed into a corner. And with no other options, the Lich comes out.
Stop.
And with the Lich taking over Sweet Pea's body, I just want to add that he produces one of the hardest scenes in all of Adventure Time.
There was nothing. And before there was nothing, there were monsters.
Right after Sweet Pea snaps out of it, he reminds himself what Tree Trunks told him, which was that it's just a dream. And I found this significant in Sweet Pea's character, as it shows that although he may deep inside have an evil nature, he won't let that control him. And I also found it super interesting that the first thing he thought of was exactly what his parents taught him. And the episode wraps up from there with one thing to note is that when Sweet Pea goes back to school and the kids start to pick on him again, instead of being sad about it or mad, he finds a way to flip it and to make a joke out of it, showing that he won't let his emotions get the better of him and he can be whoever he chooses to be, not falling victim to his inner nature. I think the importance of Gold Stars is the showing of nature versus nurture argument. On one hand, you have the most evil nature you can possibly have, and on the other hand, we have the nurture of his good-willed parents. And I agree with the result of Gold Stars, that nurture is ultimately more powerful than nature. Personally, on the argument of nature versus nurture, I believe nurture has a stronger effect on someone's life over nature. And I'm not saying nature has zero effect on how your life will go. I mean, there's you know, obviously some of it, but to say as your fate is sealed purely by your nature just isn't true. How you were raised, your environment, your family, your friends, they all influence the choices of your life and who you are as a person. So, you know, don't let factors that were out of your control dictate how your life is moving towards, because ultimately, at the end of the day, your life is weighed by your choices and the outcome, the results that came from them. The next major appearance Sweet Pea has is Be Sweet, but to be honest, it's more of an LSP episode, so I'm gonna just skip that. The speedrun version of it is that LSP has to babysit Sweet Pea, but you know, it's LSP being LSP. So yeah, the only thing to note that's really important is his extensive bedtime routine, but even then, that's not really too vital for the story, so we can just move on to the next major appearance. The last major appearance and arguably the most important episode for Sweet Pea is Whispers, and this is the episode that puts every episode previously to the test, as is the ultimate make or break moment for Sweet Pea. The episode begins with Finn and Fern hanging out in the forest until Sweet Pea comes running through their path screaming and crying, and when the duo calms down Sweet Pea, they ask him what's bothering him, only for Sweet Pea to tell them about the monster that whispers him bad thoughts. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if I saw something moving in the shadows too, I'm dipping just like him. Remember how in Gold Stars he used the phrase, just a dream, to calm him down? Well, Finn tried to do the same here, but Sweet Pea tells him he only has one dream now. And I think you guys know who it's about. The Whisper Monster is constantly telling Sweet Pea that he's a bad person, and that he will always be a bad person. And this breaks Sweet Pea's heart, as he's trying everything in his power to not be a bad person. Soon after everyone goes to sleep, we find that Sweet Pea wasn't imagining the Whisper Monster. The Whisper Monster is real. And as Finn and Fern tries to stop it, Finn realizes who the Whisper Monster is. Just for some quick context on how the Lich is here, even though Sweet Pea is technically the Lich, and also how the Lich became a hand, in the episode Finn the Human, while Finn and Jake are chasing the Lich, they meet Prismo, and Prismo grants Finn's wish, which was for the Lich to never exist, and thus creating the Farmworld universe. And in that universe, Farmworld's Finn finds the Ice Crown, and in wearing it, accidentally causes the bomb that releases the Lich to explode, and when Farmworld Jake steps into the ooze, Farmworld Lich was born. But luckily our Finn stops him, and when he cuts the Lich's hand, his hand was transported to every possible universe. Okay, let's get back to the main story. As Finn was interrogating the Lich makes a bold claim that although Sweet Pea may seem harmless, ultimately, he came from him, and that it won't take much to make Sweet Pea remember that and choose the path of ultimate evil. The Lich escapes, and while Finn leaves to chase him, Sweet Pea is taken over by the Lich, and his plans are revealed that he wants Sweet Pea to go to the Well of Power and revive the Lich to his true form, starting chaos and evil all over again. And when Finn catches up to the Lich, he gets absolutely bodied by the Lich, and when he's hanging on for dear life, instead of finishing him off, the Lich does what pretty much every other villain does, which is monologue for a really long time instead of finishing the hero right there, even though it would be the easiest thing ever and it would get rid of the problem for him. And when all seems lost, Sweet Pea makes his entrance. But something seems off about Sweet Pea. He copies what the Lich says and says, "I too am doomed." Side note, why did they make bro fall like this? But when Sweet Pea confronts the Lich for the first time, he confirms that he is sweet and that the Lich is nothing before him. And just like that, Sweet Pea kills the Lich. And with that wraps up Sweet Pea's character. With one more thing to note is that in the final episode in the far future, we see that Sweet Pea has grown to be a great hero, solidifying that he never did turn back to the dark side. Carl Jung says the shadow is the inferior part of the personality, sum of all psychic elements which, because of their incompatibility with the chosen conscious attitude of the persona, are denied expression in life and therefore coalesce into a relatively autonomous splinter personality with contrary tendencies in the unconscious. The entirety of Sweet Pea's character can be summarized by Carl Jung's The Shadow, in which Carl Jung states that we all have a dark side within us, whether we want to admit it or not. We all have elements to us that aren't pleasant, and his solution to it isn't to run away from the shadow, but to face it. Throughout Sweet Pea's arc, he's constantly running away from his inner evil. We see this in the start of Whispers too, and no matter how hard he tries, the shadow is always there with him. It isn't until he finally faces his shadow is when he takes control over it and finds out that he had the power to get rid of his shadow the entire time. Again, from Carl Jung, to confront a person with his inner shadow is to show him his own light. From birth to the far future, Sweet Pea's life was a constant struggle between his inner self and who he truly wants to be. And through understanding himself and support from those who love him, he was able to conquer his inner shadow, allowing him to be a great hero. And yeah, that's all I have to say. If you watched the video to its entirety, then thank you. And if you want to show support, like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. This video took a lot of effort to make. And with that, I hope everyone has an amazing day. Peace.